Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is E. Nunez, and I have the pleasure of being the chair for our Undergraduate Research Scholarship and Creative Activities Conference, and also serve as the Associate Director for the Undergraduate Research Center. And welcome, welcome, welcome to our faculty networking event. We have some amazing panelists here, and although I do hope that this conversation and dialogue just develops organically. And so please feel free to kind of just have that dialogue naturally. So before we get started with having our panelists introduce ourselves, I do want to take a moment to do a land acknowledgement. When I am making this statement, I am specifically talking about the land that UC Davis occupies. And I encourage each of you to look up the indigenous land in which you are currently on. And so just want to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered. For thousands of years, this land has been the home of the Patwin people. Today, there are three federally recognized Patwin tribes: the Kachil-Dihi Band of the Winton Indians of the Kuswa Indian community. My screen went away. I am so sorry. Kuswa Indian community, the Quechua Dineje Winton Nation, and the Quechua Dineje Winton Nation. The Patwin people have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It has been cherished and protected as elders have instructed the young through generations. We are honored and grateful to be here today on their traditional lands. So thank you again for being here. Want to publicly thank our conference co-sponsors, that's Student Affairs, Undergraduate Education, Global Affairs, and the University Library. Thank you so much for your continued partnership. This conference could not be possible without it. And without further ado, I'm going to invite our panelists to introduce themselves. And why don't we start with Jeff? Why don't we start with you? Just tell us who you are, what role you play on campus, and maybe anything else you want to share.
Okay, well, my name is Jeff Magnan, and I'm a continuing lecturer in the university writing program. So the role I play is this big on campus, but I've been here since 2007, have enjoyed all of it. And is there anything else? I guess that's it. It's a pleasure to be here, I'll say that. And I'm hoping I can answer your questions in a productive way, in a good way.
Thank you. Yasmin?
Hi, everyone. I'm Yasmin Hashimi. I'm a PhD candidate in the English Literature Department. I also serve as an advisor for the Undergraduate Research Center, where I am the program coordinator for our mentor-mentee program in the Humanities, Arts, Cultural Studies, and Social Sciences. And I'm excited to be in conversation with you all today.
And Mirka?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mirka. I'm currently a fifth year here at East Davis. I am one of the URC ambassadors, and I also have a video up to the McNair Scholars Program. So welcome here, and I'm happy to be here, basically.
Thank you. Awesome. So I want to say to our folks who are attendees to please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and to also use the raise hand function in chat or in Zoom should you want to use your voice, which we obviously welcome. So I just want to start with a general question for the three of our amazing panelists. Tell us about your experience with research on our campus. What has it been like, and the like? So anyone who would like to start? Yasmin, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I was waiting for Mirka first, but I'm happy to go ahead. So I've had, as a PhD student, I came in with the purpose of doing research as well as teaching, and it's been a really exciting experience. I had done research as an undergraduate through the McNair program at my undergraduate institution, University of San Diego. So I was familiar with research. I did like 2 summer research projects. I had presented my research. So I had a sense of what the research process was like and what it looked like in my particular field. And then when I got here to Davis, you know, it's just like on another scale. As a graduate student, you have access to a lot of resources, and at UC Davis in general, because it's an R1 institution, you know, we have a lot more resources. And so it's been an exciting experience. My work is very interdisciplinary. So while so I will say, like, I'm interested in looking at popular representations of Tudor queens. So that means I'm looking at them in the 16th century in their historical moment. I'm thinking about how they've been adapted, how they're written about in the 17th century, whether it's on the stage, in the poem. And then I'm also interested in contemporary reimaginings in TV and film. So I'm really thinking across different disciplines. So I'm thinking about English literature, I'm thinking about history, I'm thinking about media studies, so fan studies, film, and stuff like that. So that's the kind of work that I do. And I've been really lucky here because there are opportunities to do like collaborative work and to think about your work alongside other people. And I will say that I am a collaborative researcher in general, meaning that I view anytime I'm learning from someone, anytime I'm hearing about their work and it's influencing me in the way I think, to me, that's collaboration, right? Because I'll probably end up citing them, their work and their thoughts inspire the work that I do. So I'll just say that my experience here has been amazing. I also work with incredible faculty. I have incredible faculty mentors. And I've had the privilege of TAing in classrooms on Shakespeare and stuff like that with undergraduates who are just so excited to learn. And it helps me stay motivated. It helps me fall in love with my research all over again.
Great, thank you. Mirka?
So my path to research was a little more complex. So coming to Davis, so I'm originally from Los Angeles. I was 400 miles away, huge culture shock, academic shock, all types of shock. So trying to find research for me was more like, oh, it'll, like I'm just hoping the opportunity will kind of land on my feet because I wasn't really sure where to begin to even look for. And I was lucky that I did find a lab in the psychology department, which is my major. Oh. Sorry if you can hear that, my window's a little open. You know, but the work that I ended up doing in my first lab didn't really, wasn't really what I wanted to do. It was a lot of more data collecting, data entry, which is great and all, and learning and obtaining this experience, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I ultimately ended up leaving that lab. Took a year or so away from research to try and really figure out what it was I wanted to do and what I should be looking for. And huge shout out to E, because I actually ended up finding E and they had connected with me and had, I've been working with them for such like a great time. A long time now. I think it's almost 2 years since I've met you, right? Maybe 3. And so E has helped me create like my resume, look for different labs. They helped me find my last lab, my current lab, as well as been a part of the OEOES program, and have even looked at different literature articles with me for my current research with McNair. So E has really been a huge component of my research experience. And without a doubt, like everyone needs a mentor like E, definitely.
Wow. Thank you, Marika. That was not planted. I did not ask her to say all these things, but thank you, Mika. That really does mean a lot. Jeff? Anything to add?
I should say, well, my background, first of all, is in dramatic literature and dramatic criticism. And my terminal degree, though, is an MFA. So I can talk a little bit about the research I did then. It touches on what we're talking about now. In the university writing program, where a number of my colleagues have PhDs in Rec Comp. I don't do a lot of research. I'm more or less paid to be a classroom teacher, but my experience with research, so I had two interests when I was a graduate student. One was the adaptation of literature into film. And the other was just what it means to write a character in drama. The understanding of character has changed over and over again. And dramatic characters certainly, you know, in the late 20th century when I was in graduate school, looked nothing like characters in Renaissance drama and certainly in Greek and Roman drama and so on. So one area, the adaptation of literature into film, really the research was just intense engagement with the texts themselves, with the film and the text. There was really nothing outside of these things. But to study the what it means to write a character in dramatic literature and the changes that have taken place over a couple thousand years, that took wide reading. That just took reading one play after another. And it also took reading criticism that was contemporary with the plays and criticism also afterwards. So one research interest took sort of intense focus and the other took or intense attention to a few texts, and the other took broad attention to a lot of texts.
Great, thank you for that. We have some questions in the chat that I'm going to go ahead and bring up. So what was the hardest part for you about getting started in research? Any one of you who want to take that question? Go ahead, Mika.
Great question, because honestly, I think this is what I struggled the most with getting into research. I think it was more of putting myself out there a lot, because I was always like, oh, like research isn't for me, or, you know, I need a certain GPA to do research, or I don't have time for research, or it was just a lot of like myself blocking myself from doing the work. And so once I got out there and I really learned to communicate with like the PI and the grad students, being involved in the research and doing the work became a lot more easier, because now I had like that network, and now I wasn't doubting myself at like every step and turn in the research.
I think the hardest part for me, and I'm thinking about as an undergrad, when I first found out that I could do research and it was a thing, was feeling like I had the authority or the space to even share my ideas, because I just felt like other people knew so much more than me. And especially thinking about a field like the Renaissance, the early modern period, you know, we're talking like over 500 years ago. So much scholarship has already been done. And it almost seems like, well, what can I add to that? And so that was in some ways the hardest thing when I was getting started, and also looking at the composition of people in my field. You know, I'm first gen, I was first gen, still am first gen, like woman of color, and like thinking about like the people who study these topics don't even like, they don't look like me, they don't sound like me, they're not from where I'm from. And so really that, I think the biggest barrier was the sense of like belonging and whether or not I could occupy this space. And then once I, you know, sort of moved through that and had great mentors who were like, you know, you are valuable, we need your voice and things like that, then I was like, I have so much to say actually. Yeah.
Great.
For
Jeff,
me,
anything to add?
well, what I was going to say, first of all, I can pick up on both what Yasmin said and Mirka too. I don't do a lot of research now, but I do teach STEM majors a lot. We develop a writing class for any major that comes to us. And I'm teaching, for example, this quarter biology students. And what I want to say, so I'm going to answer the question from what I perceive as their impediments, if you will, to getting into research. And I think it's what Mirka said. I would just put it out there. A lot of it is self-doubt. They simply think that everyone else is more qualified, and somehow they would be stepping out of their lane and this type of thing. You know what I'm speaking to. And so that really is a handicap, I think. So I can affirm from observing my students over a long period now that many of them feel what Mirka did and so on. And then regarding Yasmin, and I think Mirka said this too, about being first gen and a person of color. I'm neither of these things. My parents were educated and so on. And I don't think I realized until really I'd begun teaching that how much it mattered. I didn't have to worry about finding people who looked like me in academia. They did look like me. And I don't think I understood how much that counted and how much that helped. Now I think I understand for sure. So I'm glad you found mentors, and I'm glad you've overcome your doubt too. That seemed to me to be a big impediment for others.
Thank you. Thank you for that very honest and answer from deep awareness. Thank you so much. So another question we have is in grad school, I think this can actually apply to both graduate and undergraduate studies, but how do we go about doing research from an interdisciplinary perspective?
I mean, I feel like that one was like directed towards me. Not that everyone else can't share their knowledge. I suppose for me, I will say that my mind, the way I think about research is inherently interdisciplinary, where I'm always thinking about things together. I'm usually, if I'm reading a text, I'm thinking about how it might have been adapted for the stage, or I'm thinking about my mind sort of already works in that space. So to me, it feels sort of like obvious to think alongside different fields and to think about them together. I will say that it's exciting work, but it can also be challenging. One of the things I find that's really useful is to connect with people. First of all, try to find people who are doing work that's somewhat similar to you. That will just really be helpful. So for me, it was finding early modernists who work in media studies and adaptation studies. That was really exciting because also they will sort of not just share research resources and opportunities with you, but a lot of times there's in some ways kind of like a blueprint for this. Not that that's necessarily useful, but people are already usually have already started to pave the way. And so you can sort of see what they're doing and how they've done it. I also think it means, connecting with people in other departments, right? It means being interested in what they're doing in media studies. So maybe connecting with professors in media studies, film studies, going to the mod lab, seeing what's going on there. I also find it incredibly useful, and now has been a great time for this, attending talks. And especially because during these times, a lot of the virtual talks are free. That has been, even as a graduate student, that has been such an amazing learning opportunity for me, because so many scholars whose work that I'm interested in, or scholars I haven't heard of before, I'm being introduced to them by attending these talks and hearing, I went to a talk a couple weeks ago on race and fan studies, and that very much informs the work that I do. So it's really just, it's getting out of your box, it's getting out of your department, and engaging with people in other departments. And to me, like I said before, I'm collaborative. I love being in community with people, so I really thrive in those spaces. I hope that answers your question. I'll leave it for other people who might have comments.
I'll just affirm what Yasmin said about going to talks and just sort of almost to the point of exhausting yourself, where you see you're just going to go to this one and go to that one and so on. I actually consider it a perk of being in the academy, where you just come into contact routinely with so many interesting people. So I just want to affirm what Yasmin said. That's a good way to expand yourself and gain a different sense of what's possible, really.
I also want to briefly mention, if you're interested in interdisciplinary work, talk to professors in your department, talk to grad students in your department. I'm happy to talk to people in the humanities who are interested in interdisciplinary work. And something else that's been useful for me, which might not be for everyone in that school, is going on Twitter. A lot of scholars doing interdisciplinary work are on Twitter. They're talking about their work. they talk about opportunities that are coming up or different talks, and that's how I find out about a lot of things. So like networking there is also a great space, and it's also really affirming to be and exciting when you like, you know, tweet a professor or someone you think is sort of like a scholarly, like awesome sort of superstar, and they respond. You're like, oh my gosh. So that's sort of that's fun too, and sort of thinking about how like you're already like a researcher, so you're engaging in conversation. And by the way, like people love talking about the work, as you can tell right now. So like you can totally tweet them or email them and they'll probably be very happy to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you. I also want to say, you know, we do not live in a vacuum. All of us are interconnected. All of our experiences are interconnected. So it is very natural, I think, for research to be interdisciplinary as well. And that's regardless of the type of research you do, the type of field you're in. That's always the interdisciplinary perspective should always be there, right? This next question is a bit of a technical question, so I'm going to take this question. And so the question is, how has availability of research positions changed since the COVID-19 pandemic? If it has decreased substantially, and I assume so since many labs appear to be closed, is there any news for what will happen in the future? This is a great question. And actually, so yes, the pandemic has definitely impacted the positions that are available to students on campus. And the humanities, the HArCSS, are in a very special position where we can often conduct our research from a remote perspective, right? We can do interviews with somebody on Zoom. We can do archival research from our living room. We can do those kinds of things. So I would say that it has more directly impacted potentially folks who need to be in a physical space, right? So that is true. Recently, Provost Krogan announced that the plan is for UC Davis to go back to in-person instruction come the fall. And thankfully, that also means research, right? So we will also be opening research back up in the fall, so long as the CDC and the county and state guidelines say that we will be doing that. So, so I'm excited for the fall because that means we'll be able to come back hopefully full swing with research.
I do want to just briefly mention, because I've seen this amongst friends and colleagues, that not everyone has been able to do archival work during the pandemic because not all archives are digitized. And this is why the digitization of archives is so important if possible, and having material that's open access so that people can access them from various locations. And of course, accessibility has wider connotations than just that. So that's my little plug for like digitizing more archives and making things more accessible.
Yes, thank you for that, Yasmin. Thank you. So let's see, next one is, when is the best time to start research? And what are some programs that students can get involved with? Go ahead, Mika.
I feel like I'm back in like kindergarten. I'm like, yes, pick me. The best time is really up to you. If you are a freshman and you're like, I want to do research, definitely go for it. If you're in your last year, I still recommend it. If you're in between, like, honestly, just go for it. My first year, I was like, oh, I have to get into research. I have to get into research. And it didn't happen. And I felt so bad because I was like, everyone else is in labs. Someone has a summer internship. I'm so behind. And that was my freshman year. And I was already like, oh my God, I'm behind. And, you know, fast forward 4 years now, and here I am talking to you about research. So really, it's up to you. And Sarah, thank you for posting the link to about the many options. But if you also need units, you can actually do like internships through different departments. I know one of my first internships, I was actually like a tutor for the Davis, the Harper Middle School here in Davis. And I earned like credit for Chicano studies through them, and it also counted as like a research experience because I not only was I tutoring them, but I was doing reflections and working with the teachers on how to better educate and provide translations for the students. So what you think of as research may not be the same as what someone else thinks of as research. So really, it is up to you when you want to do and what you want to do as research.
This is great. Mirka and Yasmin make all the points, and all I have to do is say I agree. But but what I want to actually affirm both of them again. One is I don't think there's one best time to get involved in research. Mirka's point here. Instead, I think it takes self-confidence, and so to move over then to what Yasmin said about you'd be amazed at how many times you get a reply from faculty. I would say that's absolutely right. Don't hold back. When I was an undergraduate, I had a senior capstone project, a thesis that was taking me all year. And to do it, I had to reach out. This was outside the university to some pretty big people, and really everyone responded. And so what I have to say is that if there's a faculty member that who you especially admire or have taken a class with and so on, here's what I'm trying to say. Don't wait for an opportunity to be posted. Take the initiative. And again, you'll be so surprised at how someone who you wouldn't expect will reply. They do. And so I think that to wait is maybe, it seems respectful, and it is, and so on. But go ahead and take the initiative. You'd be amazed at how often you'll have good outcomes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you don't have to feel like you don't have to know everything about your field to get started. You just have to be curious and excited about it. And I think people appreciate that. I know I appreciate having students who want to, pop into office hours to talk about, whether it's the material we're going over in class or, something more related to their field that they're interested in. That enthusiasm is excited. It shows, that you want to get involved, you're invested in what you're studying. And so I just think when you feel ready, when you start asking questions, that's really the thing. You don't have to have the answer to the questions. The point is to ask the questions, and you discover the answers along the way, or you discover more questions along the way.
Awesome, thank you. And there's a similar question from an incoming first year undergraduate to how can I get into research? So Mirka, do you have any specific suggestions, advice for our, let's see, Hannah Tan is the person who posed the question. Any specific strategies for them to think about?
Hannah, thank you for your question. My strategy is apply to everything. And I mean everything. Like, look at everything. I know I went on the psychology department so many times, when I click it into Google, it's now purple because I've been there 20 times. But I go in there and I look at all the professors, I look at their research topics, and I'm like, oh, that seems interesting. And I'll make a note of it. And then I'll go to someone else. I'm like, oh no, that's more interesting. And I'll just take all these notes on everyone. And I'm like, okay, who do I want to talk to? Or, if you're an incoming freshman, definitely look and see if you have these professors, and then look at their page, see if they have a LinkedIn, see if, they have grad students, talk to the grad students first, maybe if you're not too comfortable approaching the professor first. But definitely make an effort to get in contact with someone within the research, or even something similar within the research. I know for psychology, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after my first lab, which I had mentioned was data collection. Yes, Hala, thank you. Listservs also help too, like if you're in a club or an organization on campus. But yeah, no, in psychology, we were doing data collection on personality. Didn't work out. I ended up doing executive function in like 3 and 4 year olds relating to bilingualism. So completely different area. in the School of Education. But from there, I jumped back into personality psychology, and now I'm doing work in stereotypes. So I kind of like shifted everywhere, trying to figure out what I really enjoyed. And so that's kind of, in long story short, you're just gonna have to dip your feet in everything before figuring out like what your research topic is. So definitely just apply to everything. You might not get a response, and that's okay. You know, don't take it to heart. Like, I think that's what also really stopped me too, was that I was like, oh, they didn't reply back. You know, maybe they don't like me. And it's not that they don't like me. They were probably just busy and it went into like spam or got hidden by a bunch of emails. But, you know, you got to keep trying. You got to keep going. And, you know, hopefully you find your research topic. And if you don't, that's okay. You just kind of keep pushing.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah. And I do want to say that faculty have told us and have actually shared with us that curiosity is the driving force that they're looking for. They want a student that is highly curious and highly motivated, because a lot of, and Yasmin has touched on this a little bit, is that a lot of what happens is research is learning from the things that don't work out the way you want them to work out, right? So for example, maybe you're asking a question in a particular way and you need to shift your question just a little bit, right? So yes, definitely join all those listservs. Shameless plug for our listserv. On our website, you can join our listserv, and we send out weekly listserv newsletters for everyone to see. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have here? Let me get down to them. This is a great question. How can you stand out to professors when asking them for research opportunities? Nitka, do you want to start on that one?
Feel bad. I'm like stealing the spotlight now. For professors, office hours, go to office hours. And I know it's like people or students are like, or even me, I've done this too. I'm like, no, I don't want to go to office hours. Like, I'm like, I don't know what to say most of the time. But office hours is actually where I've met like most of my friends and some of like my research buddies. You know, that's actually where I met Hala. She's here in the audience. I met her in office hours. And now like we're both in McNair, so how about that? But in terms of standing out, definitely like show up to office hours, talk to them, even if it's just like, hey, how's your weekend? You know, like I'm not saying, you know, like sweeten them up, but I'm saying be genuine with these professors, you know, like be respectful of their time and their efforts. You know, they're human too. You know, just showing that genuosity and that curiosity like up front goes a long way, really.
It's so fun to hear from, and I mean, I remember what I was like as an undergrad, but to also hear undergrads currently talking about it, and I teach right now, I'm like, is that what they're doing to me? Like, they're asking, is this what's happening? No, I'm just kidding. But I would say I was a very undergrad. I was always in office hours. I was that girl in the hallway waiting for the door to open when office hours started. That's how I connected with my mentors, who ended up writing me great letters of rec for grad school. I do say, I will add, Mirka, like, you know, knocked it out of the ballpark. How can I add to that? Be honest. If you're interested in research opportunities, you also don't have to beat around the bush. Like, you can say, like, I'm really interested in research. Do you know of any opportunities? That's really important. And also in general, I will say, at least everyone doesn't move this way through academia, but I appreciate when students are honest with me, whether they're struggling with a concept, they're struggling with a text. Let me know so like I can help you, because that's also my job and I want to like talk through it with you. So if you want to get involved in research and you're still not sure what that might look like, or if this is the right field for you, like ask those questions, say that, let me know so that I sort of know like what resources to offer you, and like what things to connect you with. But yeah, definitely show that enthusiasm. because trust me, you'll get in office hours and you'll probably have to be like, excuse me, Yasmin, like you've been talking a lot about research. Can we? I mean, we're people too, and a lot of us enjoy talking about our work, and that's something we learn to do, we're trained to do, we're excited to do. And I think also part of being in academia is sharing knowledge, right? So we want to share also our institutional knowledge, how the university works, what we know about how the university works, to help you get connected, to help you get those opportunities, to help you find funding.
Does that question also mean, I'm sorry, how can you stand out to professors when you ask them for research opportunities with them? Yasmin's answer was how, because I had a slightly different take, not from Yasmin, but I took the question to mean, how can I ask them for a research opportunity with them in that narrow sense? My answer would be know something about their work. Don't just come to them as a student in their class. When, know something, prepare yourself. And as Yasmin said, people like to talk about their work, prepare yourself. Otherwise, you're in a little bit of a weaker position than you want to be. Plenty of people are asking for the same thing. So I think the way that you can distinguish yourself is to prepare yourself, and specifically by just knowing something about a professor's publications or presentations, standing in the field, something like that. It puts you in a better position, I think, to get what you want.
Great answers. And attending events like this, right? I always tell students when I attend events, I always share my email address and encourage them to remind me where we met, because I will often, that will help me connect faces with names. So definitely a lot of faculty members are putting on events, are doing speaking engagements themselves, both on campus and off campus. So be sure to attend events, introduce yourself, things like that, because those are also great ways to connect with faculty members. So there's another question. Is there faculty that specifically work with university honors students? This is a bit of a technical question. So yes, right, there are. The University Honors Program definitely does a very good job of having relationships with faculty members across campus. And there are certainly faculty members that are regular mentors for university honors students, right? But I have not, I mean, and Yasmin, Mirka, and Jeff, you all can tell me if you all have heard different, but I have not ever really heard of a faculty member not wanting to work with a particular group of students. There's always going to be faculty out there that are going to want to work with students. And I think that in particular is something very unique about UC Davis being a Research One university, is that even if that is the case, there are still faculty that want to work with first-year students, that want to work with transfer students, that want to work with first-gen students, that want to work with university honors students, that want to work with first years, second years, third years, fourth years, fifth years, right? So there's nothing that is stopping you from working with faculty members, regardless of programs you are in, your various social identities, and or background, right? So anything else from the panelists?
I'm good.
All right, awesome. Okay, let's see.
Oh.
All right, so any other questions from the chat? Just making sure that I'm not missing anyone. Let's see. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes left. And so let me just bring up our, let's see. Oh, so here's a good one that we haven't really touched on quite yet. Can some of you talk about like specific roles and that undergraduate researchers have played when engaging in research with faculty members? And I'm going to put this one back on Mirka to start, because I know you've worked with many faculty. So what are some of the roles you've played specifically?
I'm like, I gotta think. Um, this is how you know I've been here too long. um, I mentioned data collection. So like actual field work. I've gone to participants' homes and conducted like evaluations, like assessments in terms because it was with like 3 to 4 year olds. So obviously we're not gonna make the parents come in and drive. We were a little more accessible to them. Um, Translator, I've also been a translator within the lab, lit review presenter, um, you know, what else? Oh, I'm like blanking out now. Those are usually the four or like the main ones that come up. I think also kind of not I can't remember the word. It's not navigator. I don't remember. It's like mitigating the conversation in terms of like
The facilitator?
yeah, like there you go, facilitate. I'm like it's there. Those are just some of the roles I played in like the various labs. Yeah, I'm not trying to think of more.
No, that's great. That's great. Yasmin, I knew you run. I want you to talk a little bit about like your personal experience if you've working and mentoring with students, but also want to provide an opportunity for you to talk about MMP here as well.
Of course. I do want to first briefly mention that my first year of grad school, I participated in Play the Nave, which is a mixed reality video game that allows or enables virtual design and performance of scenes from Shakespeare. And it's a huge project run by professors in our university. Gina Bloom, who is one of my professors, she's sort of at the helm. She's fantastic. And it's a wonderful collaborative project where there are interns, there are undergraduate interns. And I had a wonderful time working with them where we were creating, translating some of the scenes, creating like the script, working on the audio, working on the avatars. I got to design some avatars, and then having students like test it out, test out the motion capture. So there are, and now it's continued and gone on to have, it's a huge project that's doing so much, that's now in classrooms and things like that. And so that is one example of a collaborative project, a research opportunity that exists in our university. And I saw Sarah dropped the link in the chat. So that's something to check out too. There are collaborative spaces to get involved. We have like our Digital Humanities Research Cluster, which is open to faculty, graduate students, and undergraduates. So there are lots of different places to get involved and to be in an exciting collaborative work environment with people in the humanities specifically. And so to MMP, sorry, I got so excited about that. What did you want me to say about MMP? MMP is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, talk about, because you were a mentor to a mentee. I know that when you first participated in the program and now you run our program. I just want to talk about like, what are some roles that students are usually playing when engaging in research with graduate students?
Yeah, so MMP in our program, we pair second year and third year new transfer students with graduate students. We try to pair them as close to their field and areas of interest as possible. And so it's a really exciting opportunity for undergraduates at all levels to begin to engage with research, or actually it doesn't really matter like where you are sort of on your research journey. You get connected with a graduate student who you meet with, and you basically design a sort of plan for each quarter for the year. And you talk about your goals, what your goals are as a researcher, and that looks very different for everybody, right? Some students are just, have just found themselves here at UC Davis. They've taken some of their required classes and they're just starting to get involved in their area of interest. Others are already know they want to do research. In fact, they're participating in the honors thesis class, or they might present their research. And so our mentors help them along that process. It's basically, it's very flexible in that it allows mentors to meet the mentees, the undergraduate students, where they are. So I think it can take many shapes. Certainly, we have had mentees who have assisted their mentors with ongoing research, whether it's in lab, in psychology, in the social sciences. We've had students who end up doing lab work or who apply. They learn how to apply to different research opportunities in labs, what an interview might look like, how to write their CV, how to do all of those things. So really the roles vary depending on what field you are, right? Because HArCSS is sort of the umbrella for so many different things, and it looks so different. But it's basically to give students a taste of research, but also to help you along, to guide you along your research journey.
Great. And I do know that there are many stories of students who have started out in our MMP program and then have gone on to have great experiences and positions on campus with research, whether they be in formal programs like McNair. We've had MMP alum go on to McNair, or maybe they're doing independent research as well. So thank you for that, Yasmin. In the last couple of minutes, because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm wondering if we can just have each panelist, and Jeff, we'll start with you, just share what do you want if our students all of a sudden got a case of amnesia and they forgot everything that you all shared here today. What is one thing that you want them to walk away with from this panel?
I would say I would say this, it's more broad than research. Have self-confidence. And the one additional thing I wanted to say, one additional expression of that, if there's a moment, is this. And it speaks to the question that you asked in the, when you sent us a list, E, and that is, what is one of the myths that undergraduates have about doing research? I would say this, be self-confident enough, if you can, to get comfortable with primary sources. It's easy to think that, you know, just quoting or paraphrasing from secondary sources is enough. But if you're intellectually self-confident, there's such pleasure in just, you know, getting at it with primary sources. So I would say, as soon as you can, dig in, be confident.
Awesome, thank you. Mitka?
I think it's, in a nutshell, do not deny your brilliance. Like really, you have made it this far, and you will only go further. You'll hit a few bumps, but that's normal. You know, do not deny your own brilliance.
Awesome. Yasmin?
Mine would be curious and don't be afraid to ask questions, whether it's questions about what research looks like, questions about opportunities, questions about funding. Just don't be afraid to ask those questions, because that's usually a huge barrier, is you don't know something and you don't know how to find out, and it keeps you stuck. So ask questions. And embrace that curiosity, because that's the excitement of it. But yeah, don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, is this a paid internship? Can I get credit for this internship? Don't be afraid to ask for more, and for, you know, I was gonna be like, ask for what you deserve. You know, you deserve more. Yeah, stay curious and ask questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today, and a special thank you to our panelists. I invite everyone to either unmute themselves or to give an emoji round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much for your wisdom tonight and taking time out on a Friday evening to share space with our students. So that is what we have for our HArCSS panel. And so we will be taking about a 10-minute break, and we will start our STEM panel at 6:10. Thank you so much, and we'll be back after a short break.
Thank you.